Remember Kareem from our coffee shop? The one who complained about Wi-Fi, cold coffee and noise. Well, 6 months after discovering the science behind his complaining brain, something interesting happened. He was back in that same coffee shop, facing the exact same problems: terrible Wi-Fi, lukewarm coffee, overwhelming noise. But this time, instead of launching into his usual complaints, Kareem did something that surprised even himself. He quietly packed up his laptop and walked to a different cafe down the street. His friend Cosmo, who witnessed this transformation, couldn't help but ask, "What changed?" Kareem's answer reveals the final piece of our complaining puzzle. "I realized I was choosing my frustration every single day." Dr. Petsy had been tracking this phenomenon in her research subjects for months. After people learned about their complaining brain and understood the social dynamics of shared suffering, something fascinating happened. About 30% of them, like Kareem, began making significant life changes. But 70% continued complaining about the same issues, even with their newfound knowledge. This led Petsy to investigate what she calls the choice paradox. Why do some people use their understanding of complaining to create change, while others use it to justify staying stuck? The answer, she discovered, lies in a fundamental difference in how our brains process the relationship between awareness and action. Cosmo found himself caught in the middle of this paradox. He understood that his workplace complaints were creating social bonds with his colleagues, just as Petsy's research had shown. But he also realized that these complaint sessions were becoming a substitute for actually addressing his job dissatisfaction. The experiment in 2022, Dr. Petsy designed what she called the Awareness to Action study. She took people who had learned about complaining psychology, just like our coffee shop trio, and divided them into 3 groups to see what they'd do with their new knowledge. Group 1 received only awareness. They learned about their complaining patterns, but were given no specific guidance on what to do next. Group 2 received awareness plus tools. They learned the science and were taught practical change strategies. Group 3, the most interesting, received awareness, tools, and what Petsy called choice accountability, regular check-ins, where they had to explicitly acknowledge what they were choosing to keep the same. Imagine Kareem, Cosmo, and Petsy representing these 3 approaches. Kareem, in Group 1, learned about his complaining brain and felt enlightened. He could now explain to anyone why he complained about his apartment. It was emotional regulation, social connection, and problem identification all rolled into one. But months passed, and he was still in the same noisy apartment, still complaining, just with more sophisticated language. Cosmo in Group 2 learned the science and received practical tools. He created action plans, set deadlines, and developed strategies for change. Some days he made progress, other days he fell back into old patterns. His success was inconsistent but real. But Petsy in Group 3 experienced something different. Every week she had to answer one simple question: what situations are you choosing to keep the same through inaction? The first time she answered, "My apartment situation," she felt a jolt of recognition. She wasn't a victim of circumstances. She was an active participant in maintaining them. What it means, the brain scans revealed something remarkable. When people in Group 3, like Petsy, were forced to acknowledge their choices explicitly, their neural activity shifted dramatically. The areas associated with learned helplessness decreased, while regions linked to personal agency and executive function became more active. Dr. Petsy discovered that awareness alone isn't enough to create change. In fact, sometimes awareness without action can make us feel worse, because now we know we're stuck, but still feel powerless to change. This explains why Kareem initially felt more frustrated after learning about complaining psychology. He had insight, but no sense of control. The key breakthrough came when Petsy realized that the quote, "What you are not changing, you are choosing," isn't about blame. It's about recognizing your power. When Cosmo finally understood that his daily complaints about his job were actually daily choices to stay in that job, something shifted. His brain stopped seeing his situation as something happening to him and started seeing it as something he was actively maintaining. But here's the crucial insight. This recognition only works when it comes with self-compassion, not self-judgment. People who used this awareness to beat themselves up actually became more stuck. Those who used it as information, like Petsy did, found it liberating. Real-world application. So how do you transform complaint awareness into actual change? Dr. Petsy developed what she calls the Choice Recognition Protocol. 3 questions that help you identify when complaining has become a choice to stay stuck. First, if I stopped complaining about this issue for 1 month, what would I have to face? When Kareem asked himself this about his apartment, he realized he'd have to face his fear of change, his attachment to familiar discomfort, and his anxiety about finding something better. His complaints were protecting him from these uncomfortable feelings. Second, what would need to be true for me to take action on this today? Cosmo discovered that he'd been waiting for perfect conditions, the ideal job posting, complete financial security, absolute certainty about his next move. His complaints were maintaining the illusion that he was actively addressing the problem while actually avoiding the risk of imperfect action. Third, how is this complaint serving me? This was the hardest question for all 3 to answer honestly. Petsy realized her complaints about her research workload were actually helping her avoid taking on more challenging projects that might lead to failure. Her complaints were a form of self-protection disguised as problem identification. The research shows that people who regularly practice this protocol don't stop complaining entirely. They become what Petsy calls strategic complainers. They use complaints as a brief diagnostic phase before moving into action mode, rather than as a permanent residence. 6 months after that transformative moment in the coffee shop, Kareem, Cosmo, and Petsy met up again. Kareem was in his new apartment, quieter, better Wi-Fi, responsive landlord. Cosmo had transitioned to a job that actually utilized his skills and interests. And Petsy had taken on that challenging research project she'd been avoiding, leading to her most significant breakthrough yet. But here's what surprised them most: they still complained. The difference was that their complaints had become tools rather than traps. When Kareem complained about his new apartment's heating system, he followed it up by researching HVAC repair services. When Cosmo complained about a difficult client, he used it as information to refine his boundaries and communication strategies. The profound truth they discovered is this: complaining isn't the enemy of change. Unconscious complaining is. When you recognize that every complaint is a choice point, you reclaim your power to decide, will this lead me toward change, help me accept what I cannot change, or keep me comfortably stuck in familiar dissatisfaction? Your brain has been equipped with this choice-making power all along. The question that remains is beautifully simple. What will you choose to do with it?